So I am very pleased to announce this year's winner is Mount Vernon Unitarian Church. So in addition to a long history of environmental justice and earth stewardship, in May of 2019, the entire congregation of MVUC voted to be a part of a year-long focus on solutions to climate change. They formed the Climate Action Team, or CAT, earlier in the year to educate, to take actions, and lend spiritual support. So during its first year, the CAT organized nearly 50 events and projects with more than 1,100 participants. So the overarching goal for CAT is that a carbon neutral lifestyle becomes the default norm on church grounds, and that the church serves as a hub and inspiration for members to live their own earth stewardship values at home. So here to accept the award on behalf of her congregation is the Reverend Kate Walker. Reverend Walker, I'd like to turn it over to you. Congratulations to you and the congregation. Please share some brief remarks now.
Thank you, Annie, and thank you to all of you from the FACS team. What an honor. I know my members are actually quite giddy with delight. And so it's hard to share that over Zoom, but just there's a lot of giddy delight coming from Mount Vernon Unitarian Church right now. We are a church located in South County, right off of Fort Hunt Road, and we are a multi-faith community. So we have people of all different faiths and with no creed or dogma binding us, but we are bound by principles. And one of those principles is what we call the seventh principle. And that is that we are bound by a commitment to the interdependent web of which we are all a part. And that guides so much of what we do. So next slide, please. As you noted, Annie, a year ago, my community voted to a year-long commitment, but of course there was legwork leading up to that. In January of 2019, we had a social justice forum, and we had been kind of floundering in our social justice program for a little bit. And at that forum, we decided we were going to have one focus, and the one focus was very easily chosen, and that would be climate crisis. We did 4 months of preparation leading up to that May 29 vote, and we were committed that our year focus would be fully integrated from worship to classes, committees, buildings, and grounds. Everybody was going to work on it. And what was exciting is our first committee meeting, we had 65 people show up. So I don't know many committees that have a first meeting with that many. We immediately divided into subcommittees. And as you noted, Annie, that we had 50 events over this past year with over 1,100 participants. Next slide, please. We had presentations with wonderful internal and external speakers. Beck Mordini and Reverend Thomas Lovejoy were two particular ones that we enjoyed. Next slide, please. We creating young earth lovers. This is our classes from all ages. We wanted to make sure that we are bringing our values into our children as young as possible, from composting to creative arts and working in our gardens. Next slide, please. And we want to make sure that everybody understands that this is a full body experience from the heart and the mind, and it's grounded in what we put into our bodies. So we have a big important program about ethical eating and eating a plant-based diet, or at least reducing our meat consumption, because the meat production industry in our country is a huge contribution to CO2 emissions. Next slide, please. We are also doing some just very practical, hands-on, less plastic. We turn plastic into a bench. We are reducing plastic bags by handing cloth bags. Next slide. We make sure that we're interacting with our elected leaders and that they know who we are and we know who they are, and we're developing relationships and collaboration. Next slide. We are reaching out into the community about transformation. So this is a program that we've been doing for several years, but even more so as we invite people to bring in maybe objects that might be broken or that are tarnished or just need some kind of repair. So it's called a repair cafe. We hold it at our church or we hold it at the senior center, and people come from all over to have things repaired rather than just toss it out. More sustainable and living systems. Next slide. We go on field trips and to see other solar panels and other sustainable living systems. And though I think honestly, the one with the garden may be on our own property, but we get our hands dirty, literally. Next slide, please. It's important to understand what is sustaining our community. And it's not just work of the body, but it's also of the mind. And so we look at it from two foundations. One is the work by Paul Hawken in Drawdown. And I really encourage people to go on the internet and just Google Paul Hawken and Drawdown. And he published an extraordinary book of research that shows everybody all the really practical steps that we can take in working toward a healthier climate. But we also recognize our spirit, and that's the work of Joanna Macy and Chris Johnson and their book, Active Hope. And that is something that we engage in from small groups to large groups and making sure our spirit is sustainable. Next slide. For this next year, we just committed last week to our 2020 Deepen Our Understanding, Action and Commitment with the Church by involving every member in at least one CAT action. Reach out widely to the community to share with other churches and our neighbors in Southern Fairfax County. Live into the commitment that we are asking of our political leaders by making our own commitment to a carbon-free future and creating a plan to get there. That's our commitment for this coming year. Next slide. And these are the people who are making it all happen in our non-hierarchical leadership. Barbara Bacon, Chris Rosenthal, Rebecca Mordini, Reverend Karen Rasmussen. And this year we have expanded our leadership team to Sam Longstreet and Annie Montanari. These are our core CAT leaders. Next slide. Thank you very, very much.